Okay, we're going to look at how to make a histogram and this data set in this video. And we're using the same data set that we used when we did the stem plot. So these are exactly the same. So if you have the data already in the calculator, you don't need to re-input them. Remember, a histogram is going to look like kind of like a bar chart. Now, I have to warn you, this is a very useful graph, but does not come up that much in AP statistics. And truthfully, the TI product calculators don't do a very good job at it. So I'm going to show you a way around it in the event that you have to actually draw one. Not very likely. I think it's only occurred once on an AP exam where you actually had to draw one. So first off, I've already input the data in the previous video in the stat edit. I also have it in order. And you don't have to have it in order to do a histogram, but it's nice if you do. The way to do that, if you want to put it in order, once again, you don't have to. You can go second list, arrow over to operations, sort ascending, second one, and that sorted the first column. And if I go back to stat edit, the first column is sorted. To do the second column, you're going to go to second list, arrow over to operations, sort ascending, and make sure you have column 2. So second followed by the number 2. And now it's done. So both of those are in order from least to greatest, but not particularly necessary if you're going to use the calculator. But let me show you a shortcut and what I would recommend. In the previous video, we made a back-to-back stem plot. So here's what I would do. I'd go ahead. I like making back the stem plots. They're fairly easy. So this is what I'd have. I would just box those in. And now I have a box plot, or a histogram, I should say, for the backs. If I were doing the forwards, it'd be something like this. And once again, that's just a quick way to do that. And just like in the previous videos, you're going to, if they give you two distributions, you're going to need to describe it like this. So this is what you're going to need to do. If they give you two distributions, if they only gave you the backs, something like this, and if they only use the forward, something like this, you need to make sure that regardless you cuss, all right? Make sure you talk about center, unusual shape, and spread. All right, so that's the way that's the way I would recommend doing this on AP exam, and you'll get full credit for doing it, is making just a stem and leaf plot and then putting boxes around it. However, we're going to look at creating graphs that look like this. All right, so this is the way we're going to try to go about this. So if I go to stat, first off, the very first thing you need to do is go to y equal and make sure there's nothing in y equal. So I press clear, got that out. And it looks like it's blank, but my screen actually, I might have something way down. Clear all of that out. All right, that'll mess things up. So now that that's clear out, so the y equal doesn't have anything, I'm going to go up into my stat plots. So how do you get to stat plots? I'm going to go back to the second button and I'll press y equal. Well, if you notice, this 1, 2, and 3 happen to be on. That ends up usually being problematic for us. So I'm going to teach you how to turn them off. So press enter, arrow over, and turn it off. All right, it's highlighted off. I pressed enter, it's locked. Plot 2, press enter, arrow to the right, press enter, it's locked in. All right, now I'm going to do up arrow and over to 3, press enter, move to the right, is turned off. So I'm going to go back and make sure that they are off. So second stat plot, and sure enough, they are all turned off. Okay, so I've managed to turn them all off. Now, the fact of the matter is I want the first one on, but I wanted to use this as an opportunity to teach you how to turn them off and to turn them on. So I'm in y equals, and all I did to get here was just press the y equals button. I press enter, oops. I should press not y equals, but second stat plot. There we go. Now I can press enter. And right now it's turned off, so I'm going to arrow to the left and press enter, and it says it's turned on. So I'm going to drop down and arrow over until I select the histogram and press enter. Well, the data I want to start with first happens to be in column L1. So I press second, followed by the number 1. My frequency happens to be a 1. All right. So as soon as I do that, I can go ahead and hit graph. And I got this pretty graph, but I bet you didn't. I bet yours looks something more like this. Okay. And the reason is whenever you do these, if you have different windows, they're going to look differently based on whoever did it. So it's really important that we get our windows looking something that makes sense. And since when we looked at our data, we know we have something in the 70s, and we have nothing below in the 70s, so nothing in the 60s. So I'm going to set my lower bound at 60. I also know that this is in the 120s, and so I'll just go up to 140. And here's my window settings right here. So here's the way we're going to go through this. I'm going to press window, all right, on the calculator, the window button. And I'm going to change my minimum value to 60. And you're like, we don't have any. I know, but I want to make sure it's large enough. My maximum value, I'm going to make 140. My scale is 10, because I just wanted to go by 10, so that way every bin's the same size. It makes things nice and neat. Usually it helps to be slightly negative just so that we can see the x-axis. So how about a -1? And let's take a y max to 13. And let's just see what happens. And we hit graph. So now press the graph button. Make sure your window looks something like that. The first few numbers, the 60 to 140, the 10 and the -1 and the 13. And there we go. We have our graph, and we could actually use the trace feature to figure how many were in each one. All right. There happens to be 3 here. There's 6 here, et cetera, et cetera. So let's go ahead and do the next graph. And so that looks like pretty much what we have drawn here. So I'm going to go ahead and try to do the one for the forwards. So second stat plot. Turns out everything's off except for the one that I want. So I press enter. I have histogram selected, so I'm good there, but my data happens to be in L2. So I'm going to press the second button, followed by the number 2, leave my frequency at 1, and I'm going to press graph. And there we go. We end up with our histogram. Once again, because they vary by windows, I really would not recommend using the calculator for this. I would recommend doing a stem and leaf plot and then boxing it in. All right, thank you.